Hello everyone. Today we'll be watching another amazing PragerU video on what is a woman?
Would you believe I was a woman before this?
I could, if you would say so.
I am not. But I was a little disappointed you said that. I feel like I'm very masculine.
Anybody could be anything. So,
Based.
Yeah,
you never
maybe.
know nowadays.
What's up, guys? This is Will with PragerU. Today we're at Florida Gulf Coast University talking to people about women and if they can define what a woman is. Before we start this video,
I'm going to define what a woman is real quick, because you were wondering. A woman is someone who identifies as a woman. That seems to be the most accurate and most consistent mode of analysis. And I'll get to why throughout this video.
make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that bell button so that you never miss a new upload. Thanks, guys. How would you guys define
Yeah, do that. Do that with my channel.
a woman?
There's no certain definition of a woman.
Strong, independent, free.
Anybody
I
who
mean-
identifies
Those are characteristics.
himself with the term a woman.
Based.
Strong-willed, independent, just succeeding in life, trying their best.
Submissive.
Again, these are all
Let me see.
characteristics.
I don't think a woman has to be feminine specifically. I think a woman can be anything they want.
They're beautiful, sweet, sensitive creatures, but,
I've always found it a bit weird when people say creatures when referring to women. That doesn't sit right with creatures. You know what I call a creature? I call a creature some insect that I can't really identify, like one of those really fucking nasty cunts. I call those creatures, not women.
I think they're pretty great,
I agree. You think that there are genetic or biological characteristics that define a woman?
Woman, not really. Female, yes. Of course, they equate gender and sex. It's part for the cause. In case you're wondering, gender is identification. It is the social thing around it. And because it's social, it fulfills a social function. And because it fulfills a social function, it's malleable. And it's not as clear-cut as people want to pretend it is. We can't see chromosomes, typically. I don't know about you, but when I look at someone, I don't see their chromosomes. So whenever someone says gender is chromosomes, they're full of shit. No, it's not. You can't see chromosomes. And when you look at me, you might think, I present myself very masculinely, or very, I present myself masculinely. So you might assume I'm a male and I have XY chromosomes. But you don't know. You can't see into my skin what chromosomes my cells have. You assume. And same with genitalia. You don't see my genitalia right now. That would get my content removed, because it's YouTube. And you don't typically see people's genitalia. So those things can't be gender, because you can't see them when you gender people.
That's a tough question.
I think being a woman is a state of mind and an identity rather than there is a biological term for being a female, of course, but it's who you are and who you define yourself as a person rather than what's between your pants. I feel like gender is pretty fluid. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that you need to define any stuff, anything like that.
I don't really like to label things, just a woman, women have their parts, but I feel like, they could be whatever they want to be,
Do you think that I could be a woman?
If you
If you identify as one, yes.
wanted, you definitely could.
And then as a healthcare professional, I just have to know exactly what parts they have so I know how to treat it. But at the end of the day, if that's what they choose to label.
Again, very based. It is of course true that in certain circumstances, it might be useful to know someone's genitalia. Healthcare, a female body responds differently to certain medication than a male body. Those are useful things to know. But in normal interaction, those things don't come up. like, yeah, it's useful to know for procreation what someone's genitalia are, but if that really was the extent of gender, then wouldn't you only talk about gender on like a date? Like, you've been dating for a little while, you get to questions like, oh, do you want kids? What's your gender? Like, if the only function was procreation, then we wouldn't be talking about it in normal everyday life. We wouldn't be separating men and women into these very rigid boxes with gendered colors, if that was the extent of it. And it feels kind of weird that we put ourselves in these boxes. Why limit yourself? Honestly.
Feel themselves that's how they are.
Could a woman get testicular cancer?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of people right now who take the term woman and just put like a very broad stroke over it, and they do the same thing with the word man, and it kind of, dilutes what woman actually means. The great characteristics about women, the things that make them great, it makes it so that anything or anyone can be a woman, which kind of destroys in a sense. You know what
I would really like to ask him, like, what part of womanhood is destroyed by using an identification as the method of gendering, because what he's talking about is like the trad wife characteristics, right? That, women are caring and nurturing and make your dinner, but there's plenty of women, like cis women, that don't have those characteristics. There's plenty of cis women that don't want a family and that don't want to be your fucking trad wife. So by saying that, what he's essentially saying is by allowing trans people to be called women, you destroy what makes women beautiful or great or like valuable. That being that they're trad wives and that they're all like the same, essentially. Which is just a kind of weird way to look at the world. It is a way of looking at the world that's very, very binary. Not just in biology, but also in society and like in social things, where every man is this rough and, buff guy that goes to work and provides, and every woman is a fucking trad wife in the home, barefoot and pregnant. And who cares? Like, there are still trad wives. There are still people who have the characteristics that you like. The fact that other people are also called women doesn't dilute from that fact. I don't really know how this is an issue. I really don't. The only issue I can find is that the world isn't as easy as you might want it to be, and that not every woman is a trad wife. That's the only issue I see here.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a difference between sex and gender. So sex is what's between your legs, and that's what makes you biologically woman and man, but gender is how you feel, actually.
Is it ever kind of like, it doesn't really matter how you feel because woman has a set definition?
What does that mean? What does a set definition mean, really? Like, where do we find these definitions? Language, by definition, is a social construct. We made it up. The term woman doesn't mean anything. We made it up. The term woman has a social function. So if the current definition doesn't match the social function that we give it, it should change. Because it's inadequate. And the purely biological method isn't sufficient for identification. You run into all sorts of problems, even disregarding trans people. What do you do with intersex people? How do you define it? Is it chromosomes? Because we can't see chromosomes, so they're not very useful in everyday function. So what you resort back to is presentation. What does someone look like? But that isn't purely biological. And then you get into the problem of it being binomial. The most feminine men are more feminine than the most masculine women. So it's not presentation either. This is what I mean, but the fact that identification is the most consistent. You could say, well, you know, long hair and broad hips and all those things, and like wearing dresses, that's a woman. But there's nothing biological about having long hair. That's purely social. Broad hips there's like a hint of biological there. Yes. Women tend to have broader hips than men. But a man with broad hips has broader hips than a woman with very narrow hips. So that's not entirely consistent either. And a dress, again, is completely social.
I think that gender is defined by genitals. I don't think that that's something.
She has a cancel culture shirt, a big government sucks button, and don't tread bruh button. He found someone.
Something that you can or should be able to change, just because biology, and then even then when you do change.
Gender isn't biology. It never has been. The word gender has never been used to describe biological sex. And also, what is this prescriptivism? You should never change it. Why not? If the world is made better by changing it, why not change it?
Change that, your biological and chemical makeup is still going to be or if you're changing to a woman, then you're still male. There's so many different things people.
By the way, I want to make a point. They only use chromosomes as like their main identifier because we haven't figured out how to change those yet. Before that, it was genitals, and then we figured out how to change those, and then they move the goalpost. If we ever find out how to change chromosomes, they will just move them again. Don't think for a second that if we find a way to change people's chromosomes, they're going to throw their hands up and go, oh, well, looks like trans people are valid now. They're going to move the goalpost to your original chromosomes or some shit like that. They're going to keep on doing this. They will never accept it. I mean, eventually they will have to, just like how the vast majority of conservatives now kind of gotten around the idea that gay people exist. Some people might still be against gay marriage, but I don't think many people are still arguing that it's a mental brain disease.
Can identify as like they, thems, or non-binary. Like, it all depends on the person and how you feel.
But if you want to walk around saying you're a woman with a penis, then good for you.
I'm a woman with a penis, guys.
If that's what you feel, then you're a woman, you know?
Yeah. So would you date me?
If I was in this position, I'd just bite the bullet. I would, if Will asked me if I would date him if he identified as a woman, I would say, if you identify as a woman, yes. Now, he'd probably just say, at that point, that would make me bi. I would just 100% bite the bullet. What is he going to do? He's not going to, like, drop his trousers and go, oh, well, then suck me off. I would not say, like, in reality, probably wouldn't date him. One, because he works for PragerU, and I'm attracted to people with intelligence. Two, because I'm not attracted to masculine people. I'm attracted to feminine people, which he is not. At least what we traditionally call feminine and masculine. Do you get what I mean?
That's a tough question. No, I don't roll that way.
What do you mean? I'm a woman. I just said I'm a woman.
I mean,
The penis.
that's the tricky part. I don't like the penis part. Yeah. You know?
You don't see a lot of women with penises. Would you date that person if they were a man with a vagina?
No, because I'm attracted to male. I have like a type, so.
People will say that's transphobic of you because
No one will do that. The only way you get called transphobic because of your dating preferences is if you don't date someone because they're trans. If someone passes completely 100%, you wouldn't be able to tell they're trans, and you still won't date them. Not because you want biological kids and they're infertile and that's a deal breaker, but because they're trans. Like, your reasoning is, well, they're a biological man, something like that. That is transphobic. No one will say you're transphobic because you don't want to date someone who presents masculinely, or because you're not attracted to a penis. That's not what transphobia is.
because you don't want to date someone who says they're a woman or says they're a man.
I'm not discriminating anybody. It's just whatever I'm attracted to. I could be attracted to a specific look, or mostly if their interest is what attracts me most. So
It's unfair to say that I like to label someone as being transphobic or homophobic or, you know, all these phobias and that we have nowadays just because I personally don't want to.
We have all these phobias nowadays.
Everyone is in this mindset of, but I don't want to offend you. I don't want to offend what you say you are and things like that. And that's not how it should be.
Thanks for watching.
You should offend people, guys. You should just walk up to people and offend them. Not for any purpose, just because you hate people. That's what you should do. No, you really shouldn't. I want people to feel good, generally. And insulting them or being a dick makes them feel bad. I don't like that.
Guys, if you enjoyed this video, comment your thoughts down below. Share this video with your friends. Follow me and PragerU on social media.
The comment section is pretty much what you would expect. A bunch of people going, the liberals nowadays, and crying about it being absolute fucking snowflakes. That's pretty much it. It's the same shit over and over again. Nothing new was said. No value was added. People will just talk about how cringy liberals are without actually making any arguments. I like this comment in particular. These people are truly brainwashed. That's the only way to put it. This idea, that obviously goes against common sense, has been crammed into their brains. That is the only argument they have, is common sense. But what does common sense really mean? Well, common sense is pretty much just what I've been believing my entire life. The thing that I've known my entire life that is easy to understand. That is what common sense is. They won't ever make any actual arguments. They will just gesture broadly at common sense. They want society to be easy in a strict binary because that is simple. And they don't have to challenge their worldview. And they don't need to think about anything. Unfortunately, the world isn't as easy as they want. It's a lot more complicated, but it is pretty cool.